around to watching the Nicolau versus Matt Schnell fight.
He looked so boring in some of his other fights that I'd seen, and he looked amazing.
I gotta ask, was it the kind of dynamic, like, did Matt Schnell like bring the fight out of Mateusz Nicolau? Or I don't know why I'm saying Mateusz, he's not from
I
fucking
don't
Poland.
know.
Mateusz.
He didn't bring the fight out in the way that you normally say it, like he just kind of jumps out and he's doing everything he can, and he kind of like presses his on button, and then Nicolau's like, fuck, I'm gonna scrap. His style and the way I don't know if it was game plan oriented or what it was, but Nicolau was hitting him with these amazingly timed shots, like out, exit the pocket, enter the pocket, you just got hit. Exit the pocket, enter the pocket, you just fucking got hit. And then whenever Schnell would get on his back or get taken to his back, Nicolau would just let him up. Like, nope, you're not gonna pull your shit on me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, get up.
Interesting dynamic. Did it seem like because it sounded like Matt Schnell had a tough weight cut, how he had to
cut his hair. Yeah, it did. It did.
So I wonder if that had any impact on his performance.
I remember the like commentary crew was kind of joking about it, and like in highlights I saw they were joking about it, because at first I watched the highlights and I was like, I better just watch this whole fight. So then I went back and watched it, and yeah, it, to me, on the naked eye, and then it's crazy that you mentioned that, because in the highlights they didn't say anything, or in like the breakdown they didn't really mention that, which was okay. And then when I watched it, in my office, so I didn't have the sound on. It was on an office computer, and I was like watching it, looking at it, and I was like, what's up with this guy? Like, there's definitely like, there's something off, you know? Not to take anything from Nicolau's win, but it definitely looked like something was affecting Schnell. Like he had some type of affect, and it must have been that weight cut. Because they had mentioned too in the commentary, he's always got nice hair, good hair, cool hair.
Yeah, of course. Well, good win for Mateusz Nicolau. He's now 4-0 in the UFC. Over some like respectable names.
Yeah, he has some good names.
Mel Kopp, David Dvorak, Matt Schnell.
There's so many good fights every week, man. It's just like, damn, this guy's 6-0, 7-0. This guy's on a huge winning streak. Oh, he didn't look as good in the beginning, but now every week there's 2 or 3 guys or gals that are just like, God damn, the UFC is so fucking stacked. It's ridiculous.
Really deep. They have trouble spreading it out on all of their cards, but there's always at least one fight of intrigue where, I mean, and to skip ahead a little bit, we won't touch on it right now, but like looking at this UFC 282 card, I mean, we could both like try and say it in unison, like what fight legit matters the most outside of the main event, and it's Ilia Topuria versus Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, 2 undefeated guys, and
that's one I will watch laser focused, just for like the nuance of the dudes. In the other ones, I might just kind of like in and out, and entertainment for the fun of it.
Right.
There's always that one fight where you're just like, just watching it. So
yeah. So let's take it to the top of this UFC Fight Night card, where the UFC Octagon landed in the Amway Center of Orlando, Florida. Stephen Thompson and Kevin Holland at the top of the card, a welterweight bout. We both made our picks for this one. I believe you picked Kevin Holland. I picked, but it was with trepidation. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not trying to go like fuck. I did. But I said no. I took Kevin Holland.
I mean, I picked Stephen Thompson, but I wasn't expecting this kind of Stephen Thompson performance.
Was doors blown.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Very likely the performance of his career. You just completely outclassed Kevin Holland from pillar to post, and that's not to say that Kevin Holland didn't, have his success in that first round. He had Stephen Thompson reeling a little bit with that punch.
He caught him with an elbow, a couple elbows too.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like that was the punch that broke his hand. I don't know if you saw the Weasel breakdown. But when I watched that, it became pretty clear because it looked like he punched him like right on the crown of his head. So that really sucks. I would like to see how that fight goes. Not that I think that Kevin Holland would have
Yeah.
won that fight if he hadn't broken his hand in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't.
I saw it when
Mhm,
Holland did.
mhm,
That was, so I went back, like full disclosure, I was traveling that day. We got home, we got settled, turned on ESPN, the kids are in the bed, and then that fight's on. Like Dos
mhm,
Anjos is the end of the Dos Anjos fight. I was like, fuck, that sucked. I missed that one, but at least I get this one. So I watched it from beginning to end, and then just amazing performance. But yeah, he broke it, and then he's like kind of like moving it around, you know. But it was kind of crazy because they were just back and forth like they were homies in the sparring
mhm.
session, like, ah, you got me, shaking hands and shit.
Right.
And it's like, I don't like that shit, but whatever. You know, Kevin Holland likes to talk shit. It's kind of hard to talk shit to Wonderboy. But he gave him this look like he goes, my wrist, my hand's broken.
Mm.
And like why are you, this guy's a crazy ass fucking fighter. He's been piecing you up. Why do you go, hey, my hand? And
Why?
then he looks at his corner like my hand, and like he puts his hand out. He's like my hand, and it's like, why do you do that, dude?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Why are you giving your opponent all the favors?
Yeah,
It's weird, and I mean we can keep like breaking down how the fight went a little
yeah,
bit, but I mean, I don't mind Kevin Holland. I think he's cool. I think he's entertaining. I like,
yeah,
I like that he's fighting in this welterweight division. I
yeah,
gotta wonder though, like if you're a diehard Kevin Holland fan, how frustrating of a performance is that? Because I mean, I don't have any skin in the game. I was rooting
right,
for Stephen Thompson, but if you're like, dude, Kevin Holland, I want you to have success. I want you to be competitive.
yeah.
Why are you giving this fight away?
He gave it away. Yeah, no, that's a very good way to put it. He just gave it away, and yeah, great. That's a great way to think about it. I didn't really think about it coming from this angle. I kind of thought about. I took Kevin Holland to win just because it was like he was coming off a fucking embarrassing ass loss. He wanted a striker.
Mhm.
I thought he would. I don't know why he didn't grapple more. I mean, he's functional on the ground.
Yeah, I mean,
If
and
he's,
Wonderboy hadn't been setting the world on fire, and we'd seen how Wonderboy had lost his most recent fights too. He'd been smothered, and
yeah,
yeah.
it just none of it made sense. And Holland's shtick is cool until it's not.
Mhm.
And it's the type of shtick that when it's not, that shit sucks. Because even when he's doing his cool shit, talking shit on the ground, talking shit in the middle of like a grappling exchange with Jacare, that's not cool. It's just like, oh shit.
Mhm.
But then when you're talking shit and like shaking hands, but then you're getting pieced up round by round by round and you're not changing what you're doing, it's like, what the fuck? That shit's not funny. Like, what do you do? What are you doing? Like, let's go. So to be a fan, as someone who just picked him on a podcast that you and I have, and would have been cool to say, hey, I fucking got it right.
Mhm.
That frustrated the fuck out of me watching it. So as someone who actually like wants Kevin would consider themselves a fan of Kevin Holland, that sucks.
Yeah. It's a weird one, because I had to figure that people watching that fight. I mean, I suppose you can watch that fight, and if you don't necessarily know much about him, you could become a Kevin Holland fan
Right.
watching that fight. So there's that. There's the entertainment factor. But yeah, I peek at. I know I shouldn't, but I peek at like comment sections and stuff and see what like people, how the
Yeah.
general public reacted to the fight,
Yeah.
and people are fond of Kevin Holland. He certainly has support, but I kind of wonder
He's
like
cool as hell.
it's an
Like is the Crime Stopper shit and
yeah,
the
good
shit
guy.
talking and the he had. I mean, who the fuck has the balls to fucking do that with Hamzat? You know,
Right.
as scripted and a little bit unauthentic as it seemed. And in the moment, like seemed like the most authentic person in that
Yeah.
whole exchange. You know, Nick Diaz and everybody included in the last card he was with. So, you know, that's cool.
Mhm.
It's a, you just don't know how to, can't put your finger on it, but something's off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I would be really interested to see like what kind of challenge or what lights the fire under Kevin Holland, what makes that
Yeah.
guy, if there's any potential to want to be anything more than just an entertaining fighter or just a guy who's just a prize fighter. But they don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I guess, they don't need to be that. They
I
if he's
remember,
content making money, taking fights and not trying to be on any kind of a not having any title aspirations, then that's perfectly fine too. I guess you can have fans when you have that kind of a mindset in this fight game.
So I remember, I think it was maybe a few fights ago, because I think this might be the third fight since we've been doing this together that he's been on. And I remember, I think it was the first time we were like really getting ready to break down a fight of his that he was on.
Mm.
And so I went and watched like some of his like regional stuff, and and I, and what really peaked it for me, because there was an app on, like, if you have like a Amazon Fire Stick, they have this app where it's like they have MMA fighting as a streaming channel. It's like an internet channel, and they had this whole thing about Kevin Holland and his rise to getting to the UFC, and how, and in his little mini interviews, especially like on the regional scene, he's like, I want to be the fucking champion I want to be the champ in the UFC. And then I remember I was like, damn, he looks fucking devoted to this shit. He's like, I know I'm a striker. I know I'm a little awkward, but I'm working, and
Mm-hmm.
then how did that get to now? There's got to be something.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
Yeah. Well, he might be out of action for a bit now because it was pretty apparent that he broke that hand early in the fight and then proceeded to eat all the head kicks. And the ones he didn't eat clean, they were blocked with that same broken hand. And it definitely looked looked the part by the end when he was telling his coach to take the glove off. He verbally submitted in the corner. A lot of people thought that it was his coaches that called the fight off, which in the moment I say in the moment, but like you, I had to go back and rewatch the fight. I was also out of town. I couldn't watch them live. Upon first viewing, I thought that his corner had called it, but you could see that he told his coach to take the glove off, and that's pretty much saying, hey.
And they went and interviewed him at the end, like live. They went and talked to him, and he was like, "Bro, get that fucking mic out of my face right now, dude." It was because Wonderboy's just like, "Oh gosh, hey, guys, this was just so cool to be out here." And I just, man, this was just so fun. And I just appreciate everybody that's here. And, I'm just going to keep going, keep grinding. It's like, okay, nice. And then fucking, they're like, okay, here's Kevin Holland. He's like, what, motherfucker? Like, what do you want to fucking tell you? Like,
yeah,
what do you want me to fucking say?
Let me give this guy his props, but let's keep this short. Like, what the fuck? What do you think about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's comments after the fight about saying, hey, there's a little bit of a conflict because he does say that he's still in it for the title. He wants to make a title run. He still has title aspirations. But in the same breath, he also said, hey, if you want more fights like that, give me strikers.
Yeah.
We know the UFC is certainly not above like tailoring a fighter's like strength of schedule or types of opponents for certain people. I mean, Alex Pereira certainly wasn't going to face any heavy wrestlers, in his path to the middleweight title. What do you think the chances are that the UFC delivers on what Stephen Wonderboy Thompson was asking for there? I mean, I think that I would probably posture like him towards not necessarily making a title run unless he wins those fights. But until then, just enjoy what you have. Just, put this guy on display, because honestly, when you do put the right opponent in front of Wonderboy, like, he is all entertainment. Like, and it's just, he's one of the few guys in the UFC who has the ability to look like a Tekken character if he's matched up well. And I think that there's big entertainment potential there, and he may not talk the kind of game that the UFC likes to put out there. We'll get into the Patty Pimlet type of marketing, like, but I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people who probably weren't or couldn't have cared less about Wonderboy going into that fight this past weekend, that are probably now like way more intrigued. Like, give me some Wonderboy, because if you're not paying that much of attention, you're probably just thinking, okay, Wonderboy's just this guy who's like 2-3 in his last few fights. He's 39. He's not going to be a factor anymore. But then you get a guy who will indulge him in the stand up like Kevin Holland.
Yeah, he was a legit contender, not just like he was legit.
He challenged, he fought Tyron Woodley, twice for the title.
Right. So, it's just I think it's just going to be opportunity. I think they're going to play it by ear with him. If something happens, someone falls out, he's going to be out for a while. That was a war. He took some shots. He was cut up. He's older now. Um, he does strike me as someone who has a marketable career outside of the octagon, whether that's endorsements and other stuff. So I'm sure he's not hurting to get back in there for for a financial gain. I'm sure he's probably happy to do fight night main events. I'm sure that's okay with him. I'm sure he doesn't really want to be like the feature or down the card on a pay per view, which is probably where he's at now, right? I mean, at this point in time, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he's very happy with the main event on a fight night in Milwaukee or whatever. He seems like a guy who don't give a fuck. I think they're probably going to play it by ear as far as he goes. It would be cool to see him with someone like Masvidal, later on down there, because he's going to need time. Masvidal's not going to jump in right away.
Mm-hmm.
Just fucking throw that fight out there and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah, that would sell. I definitely think so, especially coming off of this fight. And some of the things he said leading up to this fight, or some of the things he pointed out, like the fact that he doesn't take a lot of damage. The way he fights, he's only been finished by TKO or KO TKO once in his career. And we know, he's mentioned multiple times that he'll hang him up when his dad tells him to hang him up. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny that he's 39 years old and he's still says, "Hey, Dad, it's your call when I'm going to retire from this game." They don't seem keen on doing that.
Well, my dad doesn't want me to fight Shafkat. I mean, I would, but yeah, real nice. Thanks, dude.
But yeah, he'll be out of commission for a bit because apparently he also broke his hand. So both of these guys going to be taking a much needed rest. But yeah, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson still has all the speed in the world. Still has the multitude of kicks.
Those kicks are so tricky because you just don't know. They all look the same until the last second.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I noticed watching it. I was like, God damn, and he's like quadruple OG with that bladed stance. Mm-hmm. Like Conor McGregor, fucking Henry Cejudo, whoever the fuck tries to do that shit. He's like the OG triple, and he didn't it wasn't like some shit he tried and goes, I'll just try that. Like that's his fucking thing. Like he's that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that shit it's fucking cool as fuck when it works. It's shitty when it doesn't, but when it's like that, like I was watching him against Darren Till, and not a cool fight. Like not a fun. That was not cool, Uh-huh. But when against a guy like Kevin Holland, it looks really cool. And I guess I feel like I'm kind of making it seem Holland had his moments. It was just, like you said, super frustrating because it's like, hey, dude, just drag him to the fucking ground. Like it doesn't have to look. It could look like a fucking Mackenzie Dern takedown.
Yeah.
Like there's no, you're losing, dude. So what? Just fucking fall down gracefully with him, and get down there.
And at the end of the day, it's
he tried it when he got rocked. It's like, oh, now you want to try it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you still did it anyways. Do it when it counts. Do it when you still have the conditioning to do it, not when you've been battered for the better part of 5 rounds.
I'm glad we brought that up because that's one thing that always, like, as someone who has said, I will say it for I think that's like the 1,890th time I said it on this with us.
I'm glad you've been keeping count.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but it sounds like if you're rocked, someone fucking kicks you, knees you, punches you, and you're like, fuck, I'm going to lose this fight. I better do something. And you go to take the guy down. So that's like your bailout strategy. Like for me, like I have my family, I have a bug out strategy. Shit gets hairy. I have a plan.
Oh, I want to hear about
don't know
this.
If it's good. No, I'm not going to tell you. But if it,
do you got buckets of rice and beans under the kitchen table?
Yes,
holding up the coffee table.
A couple of vats of just food. It's like add a little bit of water in there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like, I think about it all the time. I'm preparing myself. I kind of like mention it to my family. It's important to me. Shit fucks up, fucking gets wonk. This is what we're going to do, guys. It's important. Let's drill this out and figure it out. Why, if you're in a fight, you're fucking rocked and your thing is to start wrestling? Why not just do that in the beginning when you're fucking clear of mind, clear of head, And if it's good enough when you're fucking on your way out, fucking last resort, why isn't it good enough, to mix in at least a level change or something? I felt like that's what he missed too. He wasn't just like, okay, my head's gonna be here, Steven. My head's here. My head's here. My head's here. Why not do that in the first or second round? That's what I thought the whole time. And I'm no James Krause, but I figured you can fucking kind of like game plan something to where at least make it, because Wonderboy had no like, I'm never gonna have to worry about getting taken down, so I'm
No.
gonna throw everything into these exotic ass kicks, because an exotic ass kicker, you kick a kicker or you fucking take that motherfucker down. At least threaten, like, you do that, I'm gonna take you down. And he just never really tried that. I don't know why.
Yeah, because you almost can't even crowd the kicker against Wonderboy, because he will throw a kick right in front of you. Like, he doesn't.
Yeah, no, it don't fucking matter.
Much space. It's
crowd
crazy.
the kicker. Thank you. Kick the kicker. What the fuck?
Yeah, I have a feeling that Kevin Holland, and it's the last thing that I'll say about him. The MMA fandom is fickle. Darren Till was a fucking a sweetheart of the MMA fandom like not too long ago, and now look at him. You know what I mean? We're gonna get into Darren Till.
Damn.
We're gonna get into Darren Till a little bit later, but
crazy.
I don't know anybody who's on the Darren Till.
Now look at him.
I don't know anybody who's on the Darren Till bandwagon anymore. And so I know what Kevin Holland is trying to do here, but trying to just be an entertaining fighter and trying to appeal for a fan. But at some point, we say a lot in mixed martial arts that losses don't matter. And it's true to an extent. They don't matter as much as they do in boxing. Yeah, exactly. But at some point, winning does matter. Winning absolutely does still matter.
If you took out like the end, just take out the end of the fight, right, where he kind of quit on the stool, and just play that and the Darren Till fight back to back. I mean, he did a lot more damage than Till did to fucking Wonderboy. And the way Till came out of that fight with Wonderboy, the way Holland came out, obviously you can't take the quit on the stool. That's a huge part of. I mean, it ended the fight. But at the same time, it's like, I just don't Yeah, you're exactly right, dude. Fandom is so weird. Just fandom is so weird. Being a prisoner of the moment is such a huge thing for MMA.
I almost forgot to ask you, and I know I said that was the last thing I was going to say about Kevin Holland. And I'm still a Kevin Holland fan. I'm still going to keep watching Kevin
Running
Holland
back
fights.
with D-Rod.
But this isn't necessarily a Kevin Holland specific question, but some people were talking about it after the fight. Do you think that the fight could have been stopped in that fourth round before it got to the end? Because Kevin Holland was looking rough, man. Like, I mean, I'm glad they didn't. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't let him go out there for a fifth round. If they did, this would have been a totally different conversation about like, fighter safety and shit.
Yeah.
But I thought it was as close as you could get to being like, hey, you need to look out for your fighter. Just fucking throw in the towel at this point, because he's too tough for his own good.
It worked out exactly the way it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been interesting to see if it wasn't him that quit and then got his corner listen and said, okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't. We've seen it. They don't.
Yeah. I saw a replay. I forgot what fighter it was, but where he was telling him it's over, call it.
We talked about it. Yeah,
we talked. And that's just watching.
About it,
yeah, rewatching that one, man, it was just so uncomfortable. Like, fighters just don't. I mean, corners have no ego in this shit. Just do their, what you're paid to do. Protect your fighter. Anyways, Rafael dos Anjos got a body.
Or if you know he's hurt, like if he knows Kevin Holland's hands broke, I'm sure there's a trainer out there that will like live bet and say like, oh, I'll bet against my own fighter here. You think that would they be able to do that? Or
let's get into it. Okay, I mentioned Rafael dos Anjos.
Yeah,
he fucking made quick work of Brian Barberena. I knew he would. Brian Barberena had nothing for him. I've never seen anything in Brian Barberena's like fight history that told me that he would have he he would give any kind of different look for Rafael dos Anjos. So since we can cut that fight short before we get to the rest of this card, do you want to talk about the James Krause stuff? Because this
I
is
can't.
how can you not?
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know what to say about it. I don't
There's
gamble
a
on
good
fights.
reason why. I don't want to implicate myself in anything here.
Were you
Yeah.
part of the 1% club?
Uh, not the Discord,
So
but I
let
did find. Okay.
let's break it down for anyone who might be listening
Yeah.
who has been potentially hearing about this, because I know I have a handful of people who listen just for support, and they like mixed martial arts, but they're not as into mixed martial arts as
Sure.
we are. So they might be hearing all of this and they might be thinking that they might be thinking this implicates or means like fight fixing or something like that. So like kind of like in the simplest terms, like kind of explain for people like what this is turning into or what the situation is.
It's turning into something to where the UFC, I mean, sports now is just intertwined with gambling. So when you see fucking, you fucking turn on an American football game on a Sunday, you watch 10 ads, three of them are going to be for gambling sites. You listen to a fucking, I mean, it could be a comedy podcast, it could be any type of podcast. It's mybookie.com, it's promo code this, it's promo code that, FanDuel, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything's betting, right?
Right.
So, but I guess, and in baseball, there's fucking cheating scandals, betting scandals that go back hundreds of years. Football, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy, a wide receiver, who he bet like $1,200. Calvin Ridley bet like $1,200 on a game. He wasn't even in. He was hurt, and he was betting on games.
Mm-hmm.
They found out, and he's out for a whole season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, millions of dollars, and he's just out because he bet $1,200 on the game and admitted it.
And with Calvin Ridley, he wasn't even technically on the team that he bet on yet, right?
No,
right,
he wasn't on the team at all.
Right, but it did. I think there was some confusion. Maybe it's on my part because I'm not as familiar with it. But didn't he get like traded to that team afterwards? Was it?
I don't recall that. I just know that he was on the Atlanta Falcons. He was hurt on injured reserve and then bet on a game. And then later on down the road, someone found a tweet or someone had found him mentioning it. And then it came to the NFL, and they're like, very strict, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot bet on sports games.
So they can't bet on any game, whether they're on that team or not. Like they can't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure you're just not allowed to do that. Just because of Calvin Ridley, could play. He played for Georgia, right? So say he's going up against, or say the Browns are playing up against, and so he knows Nick Chubb because they played together in college. Nick Chubb is like, God damn, this motherfucker was doing coke all fucking night, bro, texting each other. He's like, bet. And then he just fucking, he's on my bookie, like, dude, the quarterback was on yak all night long. I'm fucking smashing that money line for whoever, the Steelers. So like, they just want to get all, and it's not so much that it's just like any sports bet, whether it's Las Vegas, offshore, online, whatever it is, they just do not want any type of advantage. And then they just don't want what this looks like, where the UFC should have had these rules in place already. Because like you said, like you have to explain it to people because it's not cut and dry. There was not a cut and dry rule. And James Krause knew it. And he was on Ariel Helwani explaining it.
Bragging about it, yeah.
He's like, motherfucker, I bet on every fucking fight. I bet on my own. He's like, have you bet on your own fighters? Yeah, I bet on my own fucking fighters.
Yeah.
You bet against your own fighters? Yeah, motherfucker. I mean, what? You bet for other people? Yeah, I do. And it's like,
I made more money. Yeah.
I make more money. He's like, and then he straight up said it. And then he straight up fucking dismantled the UFC. He goes, a lot of the guys I fight or I train, they're at the bottom of the heap. They're not making fucking nothing. So it kind of like leads you to believe like, okay, so do you know a guy's not making nothing? Do you know that maybe he is either not long for the UFC? Because you get those guys all the time, guys that they either come in on a couple of days notice, a couple weeks notice from the regional scene. They maybe were on Contender Series, didn't pan out. Dana needs somebody. They're there. They're ready. Boom. They fight. Kraus knows that through however he knows that. Knows the guy's not long for it. Maybe the guy goes, "Hey, bro, you're gonna make, 3,500. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you'd be lucky
Mm-hmm.
to clear. How about we all know you're gonna fucking lose? I
Right.
mean, it just leaves so much for interpretation.
And
Whereas if, yeah,
that actually becomes fight fixing at that point.
yeah, because
Yeah.
if you listen to the Calvin Ridley thing, okay, it sounds petty as fuck. It does, but the NFL's like, that's the rule. We
Mm-hmm.
fucking told you. We don't want any gray area. It's cut and fucking dry.
Yeah.
And their corporation, and then not only that, it's very smart because for the NFL, it's shrewd. It sounds as stupid as it fucking sounds. It's very shrewd because they're in bed with FanDuel. They're in bed with these fucking companies. FanDuel's going to say, hey, are your fucking players, we pay you guys a lot of fucking money for advertising. Are your fucking players trying to fuck us here? Like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
So it's release liability. Whereas now, fucking, what is it? You can't bet. Canada just is like, yeah, we're not dealing with it, guys. Like, whatever. That's weird. We don't even want to fucking deal with it.
Yeah.
And the UFC's kind of like having to reel it back now because without that money, who knows what I'm not a financial guy, so I wouldn't even want to get into like how much if say my bookie wants to just pull out or FanDuel or Bet 365 or whatever the fuck in Europe everywhere just says, hey, we're not there. That the UFC, that looks shady as hell. It's a fucking coach of all fucking people. He's fucking telling everybody, taking bets on behalf of everybody. A guy that has inside information to the fucking max,
Yeah.
and you guys just allow that,
like straight up selling it.
Yeah, you guys just fucking allow that. Sorry.
And to paint the picture for anyone who's not aware, like pretty much what happened or what was the straw that broke the camel's back, because you mentioned he's been on Ariel's show straight up bragging about it in the past, but this all spawns from the Nerd and Becca Derek Minner fight, where there was a line for that fight like any other fight, and then the day of the fight or the day before the fight, the line shifted like dramatically, which implied that people laid down some big bets on Nerd and Becca to win specifically by KO, TKO, round one, and enough money to like completely turn the betting line around. Which and to me, who's relatively unfamiliar with all this stuff, like I understand betting, I understand how the lines work and stuff, but I didn't really kind of grasp how much money you would need to bet to actually get the lines to shift that much. And so what ends up happening is Derek Minner goes out there and in the first round throws a kick, and it's very, very evident that his leg is injured. We talked about it on the show when we were recapping that fight. And now James Krause is in hot water because it's pretty obvious. I mean, a lot of people were kind of going to bat for him and saying, like, we know it looks bad, but we got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Well, now it's looking like it's pretty obvious that James Krause, knowing that his fighter was injured, still sent him out there to fight and was potentially selling the information that he was injured on his exclusive Discord channel, the 1% Club. And yeah, I have to imagine that they're probably like really, really trying to figure out who from their team like really let it slip, because you gotta imagine like this is so obvious that they wouldn't just let that out for anybody. You know what I mean? That's got to be like an internal bet. Otherwise, like what are you doing at that point? Like how do you expect to not get caught? But yeah, that raised a ton of red flags. Minner's been dropped by the UFC. All fighters that are cornered or coached or train with James Krause can no longer train with him, and they were given an ultimatum. So you can continue to fight in the UFC, but you cannot continue to train with James Krause. So any fighters currently training with him have to make other arrangements, and that means Brandon Moreno, who's going to be challenging.
Yeah, ever heard of him?
Yeah, former flyweight champion who's going to be challenging again for the flyweight championship in Brazil pretty soon. So that leaves him in a real tough spot because now he's got to switch up head coaches before going into this, and yeah, it's a mess, and it's starting to get picked up by more and more like mainstream news platforms, and you got to kind of have to wonder, like, it's one thing for us kind of knowing, kind of have seen how this is kind of over time,
Unraveled.
unraveled over
Yeah.
time. But you got to kind of start to wonder, like, this is going to start making it into articles and headlines, and people who aren't in the MMA like sphere are going to start reading about this. And I hadn't really considered like what it's going to look like, or what the perception is going to be.
Right. And in sports, it's never weighted to, it's always weighted to what do our sponsors think. It's always, which the sponsors are literally getting fucked in this deal. So they're like, what do you think we think, motherfucker?
Mm-hmm.
Dana White is so fickle. It's all about the dollar with him. So that's fucking nuclear option, like dunzo. Do you remember, you've heard of like SMU football, right? Southern Methodist football. They, back in the day, they had this thing called it was like the death sentence. It was just like, every college at the time was paying. I mean, every college now pays their recruits under the table to come to the. So out of nowhere.
Should we say allegedly?
No. This is 100%
Okay.
documented. They've made fucking movies, written books. It happened a long time ago. They got Eric Dickerson of all fucking people to come to Southern Methodist, right? And they just had, it was crazy. And they're like, this guy's fucking like, how? And then he pulls up in like a gold Trans Am and fucking, he was Deion Sanders before Deion Sanders was born, coming out. And like at SMU, like what the hell? And they got caught, and a lot of them were taking money. And so SMU just got, and it was kind of like an overreaction, but because of Skip Bayless, we all know who Skip Bayless is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because Skip Bayless fucking brought light into it and put it in the news, it was like, oh, this is a story. It could fill, Good Morning America maybe has, maybe the president's son isn't smoking crack that week, so they need to fill an extra 45 minutes. So they're just like, hey, fucking look at these fucking, look at this clown show over here.
Yeah.
And so then the wrong people get, like, in the NFL, there's a we're talking about like you're a Bengals fan, right? Joe Mixon just beat the shit out of a chick when he was in
Laid
college.
her out.
Yeah, and no one gave a fuck. And then there's video of it, and they're like, "Oh shit, oh yeah, fuck this guy, dude. Yeah, we can't deal with this. That's terrible."
Yeah.
Ray Rice, same fucking thing. Like, hey, we heard he hit somebody. That shit sucks. He's done for 3 days and 3 games.
Yeah.
The video comes out. Hey, never gonna play again. Sorry. And it's just like, okay, so it is like you said, this shit's not even begun to fucking come out. And then the thing, this is what's gonna this could really fuck Dana, because hungry dogs are louder. They bark louder. So his fighters are like, bro, I'm making 8 G's, 12 and 12. They're fucking coming at me. Why am I going to keep my mouth shut?
Yeah.
Why am I not going to, fuck it. I'm being exploited. Yeah. They're just going to fucking sing. So, and that's also going to come into play, because then regulators look at it from a whole. So then they're going to start saying, and Krause was mentioning it, like, a lot of my guys were lower levels. They're not making that much money. So it's like, are you saying what we think you're saying? Like, what? And the FBI is going to do that. They're going to say, like, are you saying what we think you're saying?
They're
like,
going to get forensic. And they have no reason to not just go scorched earth on James Krause if he was doing what it looks like he was very obviously doing. I mean, it's easy to kick him while he's down and be like, James Krause, like, you're the dumbest guy in sports right now. But it was super blatant. I mean, I'm not big in the betting world at all, so it kind of flew under my radar. I noticed James Krause started to pop up for his analysis on my Instagram feed, but I wasn't really like looking at him for his betting insights.
Dude,
but
if you're just, so there's a book by, his name is Michael Koenig. It's a good book called Smart Money. And it's kind of like a book about someone named Billy Walters, but they use different names. And he's the greatest sports bettor of all fucking time. It's like known. He was on like 60 Minutes. They've like done all these interviews. There is no like link at all to him, and that, at least that I've heard of, that he pays players off,
Hmm.
or he does things to mess with games, good, bad, or whatever. It's just he's a good sports bettor. He's a handicapper. He knows what he's looking at. They don't let the guy into a casino, and he doesn't do anything. I mean, what you would think is illegal. The casino's just like, we don't fuck with you.
Hmm.
So if you're literally like involved in the training and like you're fucking, and then you're on ESPN and then you're on YouTube and then you're training a guy like Brendan Moreno, then yeah, this shit's gonna get way worse, dude.
Yeah.
This shit is like the tip of the iceberg, man.
Yeah.
They do not fucking. That is not. You can be
It's
good
fucking
at
with a lot of people's money. All those bookies, like, because a lot of people might look at this and be like, "Well, how's he really?" You might, yeah. In a way, he's not screwing out other average Joes who are making bets because whatever they'll get paid out on their bet. They're screwing over. What he's screwing over is the bookies, and those guys. I mean, there's a reason.
It's not even bookies. Like it's like multinational holding corporations that I mean, in a fucking in a industry that the mafia fucking
That's exactly
runs.
what I was going to say.
So
yeah,
it's like,
I mean, I simplified it down to bookie but I just
Yeah.
kind of figure like the entire corporation is a bookie or whatever. But yeah, essentially, yeah,
it
was
just
born
feels
out
like
of-
this is the beginning, and I think Dana's PR is spinning it right now to kind of like tread water. I get anxious that this could end the UFC like in a really bad way, because uh, it's cute until you mess, like these guys just do not like it. Like if you're good at blackjack, you can't. You like you're an advantage player. What's the advantage? You're just good at it.
Yeah, you suddenly you can't just walk up to any blackjack table.
Yeah, so
It has to be such a controlled environment.
To literally, it's not that James Krause is such a good trainer, and which he is a good trainer.
Yeah,
But it's not that he's such a good trainer that his fighters are so good it's hard to bet against him. It's just so convoluted and stupid, and I think this is really gonna fuck Dana over, and I'm glad it. I hope
so.
it kind of does, but I also hope it doesn't, though, because we're talking about it being so stacked, and so SMU football was so fucking good, right? And they had really good players before the whole Eric Dickerson paying for players and Skip Bayless kind of fucking flipping it on everybody. So now SMU can just like, it wasn't that long ago SMU can now play in bowl games, and like they were done for like 12 years. If this happens to the UFC, all this talent gets scattered everywhere. Selfishly for me, I like to see it every week. And like we said, there's a fighter every week. There's a matchup every week that we just want to see. What if we just don't get those anymore? This guy goes to Ryzen. This guy goes back to KSW. This guy goes to PFL. Bellator gets a little bit stronger. You'll never even know these guys are on. You'll never even fucking know. One championship just cannot put a fucking match together. Guys aren't fighting for years at a time.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be like that, where you don't see the heavyweight champ for a year to throw? Whoa, we kind of already have that. But what I think is like, do you know what I mean? In almost every division, you just don't see the top 5 guys. You see them maybe once a year, and it's not even their fault. They just can't do it anymore.
That's a really, really good point. We are definitely spoiled by having like all of the premier, most of the premier, 90% of the premier talent in the mixed martial arts world under one roof. So if the UFC went topside, there would definitely be a power vacuum, and I'd be curious to see how that fills out all of the other organizations. I think it would be like, I think it would be the gyms that would have to pivot, because I think people tend to kind of like travel in waves, like because these gyms and managers, well, especially the managers, it's actually going to be the managers that are going to have to pivot a lot, because I think right now they're kind of working with the UFC a lot. Like it might sound weird to say that to people who are looking at other sports and think of a manager and just think that a manager is only supposed to be looking out for their client's best interest. there's for a long time, like managers have been pretty much in bed with the UFC, and it's probably not as much of a problem anymore because we've seen UFC fighters like transcend and make it into superstardom. So suddenly their
Right.
managers can start to go into business for only their client. Whereas before, like it was pretty well known that the UFC had deals with managers to just funnel fighters into their organization. And I kind of would wonder if that would get worse or better if the UFC went away. If there's, a few of the high profile managers are going to be like, okay, all my guys, we're going to the PFL, and then all the other stragglers are just going to follow suit because that's where everybody went,
Yeah.
That would be pure speculation, at this point. Who knows what it would look like. I
I
haven't
think
really
that gets into
considered
like the collusion,
Uh-huh.
because then Dana's going to be like, you guys are colluding against the UFC for whatever this is.
Mhm.
I think you and I had brought up an idea way back that would, I think the, the sport, the roster, the way it is, it could go one, like we had mentioned, like the doom and gloom of this shit could go fucking bad and we never see these fighters fight again because of what James Cross decided to do, and you can't fuck with Vegas. Or it could go so good to be like, okay, Dana, we let you, you did this, thanks, but your mafia style fucking running, your mafia style union buster way of fucking running this fucking organization, it was cute until it wasn't, and now the big corps have to do it because the NFL, that's all fucking like the army, that's fucking like Raytheon, that's fucking like big time fucking like who really runs that shit
My
or
man
who
said
pays.
Raytheon.
Yeah, that's the work, that's like fucking straight up like war industrial complex, that because that's who advertises. Who pay, there's a reason why you get B-52 or bombers or Tomcats flying over every fucking game.
Yeah.
Like
There's a
somewhere
reason
that's got to
they
come.
sing the national anthem at every
Yeah,
game too.
that's
Like,
got to
on,
come
guys.
from somewhere.
We're playing football.
Yeah, so, and at one point, football was cool as hell, and then they saw like this is in every fucking living room. So if we let these rich ass Southern white dudes kind of run this shit the way they like to run it, then it's going to get kind of weird. So we're going to go ahead and just take this from you. So I feel like that. It's like the American way, dude. It's just like it'll turn into Disneyland. But I mean, because some of the shit Dana does, love him or hate him, it's a way that it's worked for, and it's got it to where they are. But now he ran it like the way he did, like a South Boston boxing gym owner, and the shit can help. But when you do shit like this, then it could fucking really hurt you. Dana's a degenerate gambler himself. So you think, I mean, shit. You think James Krause was doing shit? What do you think Dana's doing? You think, you know what I mean? You don't think Dana's calling someone who was like, hey, Suma Dwarji, this guy's his knee's fucked. So smash the Matt Chanel fucking line, dog. And then like texting like some rat hole guy who who has money on deck for him and walks over to the Tropicana and puts money down.
Yeah.
You don't think Dana does that?
Because
Dana's
could, with that exact scenario that you said, I mean, that's what's also kind of funny about it is if James Krause is really about that life, and he clearly is, there's ways he could have gone about it where he could have been making the bets, but it's weird how he decided to be enterprising about it. And I mean, in a way, it's funny because like that would kind of, I don't know if it would be the legit thing to do. I mean, the legit thing to do would just be making picks about fighters that you are not affiliated with or connected to in any way. And if you're really, really good at betting fights, then sure, you could sell that information. I don't know. It's I think in we were talking about like how this could be like the downfall of the UFC and what it would look like.
Yeah.
And Dana and all the thing. But in a way, like the UFC has actually been playing their cards right as far as this situation. I don't think they're doing anything wrong by saying, okay, well, boom, we're taking action on this right away. We are not fucking around.
Yeah.
You know, James Krause blackballed anyone involved with, you know, any of the shit that made all this stuff hit the fan. You're gone. Fighters can't bet on fights. You know, can't and the governing bodies are following suit. So yeah, I can't even really blame the UFC that much in this case. I mean, I'm surprised that nobody kind of like lifted an eyebrow at what James Krause was doing before, but hey, we're here right now, so you know, it is what it is. Yeah, the ever evolving story of nefarious gambling in mixed martial arts. We'll see how it develops. And
sports in general. I mean,
would not have thought that this is how we would be capping off the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here we are coming towards the end. We're coming up on our 1 year anniversary of starting this podcast, and here we are talking about
it wouldn't be America if it wasn't just this impending sense of every fucking thing's gonna fucking just die pretty quick here, and we just don't know when. So like, might as well be the one thing that like kind of brings me joy almost every Saturday to be like, man, are they even gonna be around next year? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. So for like the layman, like you said, some people, do we know if they follow it far? To me, this really gives me, I'm trying to not think about it that way, and I'm not stupid enough to think that, like you had said, like you just don't really get into the conspiracy side of it. I'm kind of like one of those doom conspiracy kind of guys. So it's like, damn, everybody's doing this. And James Krause is just a stupid.
Yes.
Probably gets a little yacked out, and he fucking killed it for everybody. There's a million motherfuckers right now with a lot more pull than James Krause are like, dude. But the guy, Mark Delagrade, was on the Rogan podcast, and we brought this up. He was working in the truck for the UFC, and he was there in the production team the week before, and he would just walk around the hotels, go to the open workouts, go to the gyms and talk to the guys, and then he'd go to what would he do? He'd go to the bookies, and he's just on Rogan. And this is a guy in the production truck. He's like, man, I made a good living off. And I think Rogan had asked him, like, what do you miss most about not being in the truck? Or, you know, you were giving me the info in the truck or inside, what to look for. You know, you're giving the info in my headphones. And Delagrade is like, man, making that money off of the bets. And it's like, dude, what? These guys are just so open about it. And like in the NBA, NFL, all those guys are betting. Because they know because the rules are goddamn, like fucking Jesus was talking about it to the 12 apostles. Is like the shit just goes to that far. Like, you just don't bet on games. You don't bet on games you play in, for sure. One of the best baseball players of all time, Pete Rose, can't get into the Hall of Fame because he bet on games. So it's like, it's just, you guys need to shut the fuck up about it. And James Krause just didn't want to shut the fuck up about it, and he ruined it.
Take me back to the apostles we're talking about it.
No. Like, I always think that joke when like when someone fucking tells like a stupid ass joke from like 8th grade. Oh, yeah. I'm like, I always just go like, oh, that was funny when Jesus told it to the fucking 3 wise men at his birthday. What the hell? Like, it's old. It's an old thing, but it's because like like learn from baseball.
Yeah.
Like, motherfuckers were throwing the World Series in the fucking 1910, dude. So
let's transition. Let's get back to this fight night card so we can finish that up and start talking about UFC 282, because yeah, that took a lot longer than I was expecting, but good combo. I'm glad we covered it because we hadn't really gone deep into that, into all those things that were developing. Sergey Pavlovich caught a body. Tai Tuivasa gets him out of there in just over a minute. Sergey Pavlovich is scary, man. That reach, and I was completely wrong on this one. I thought that I don't even remember if I picked Tai, but I know I was saying that I wasn't completely sold on Sergey getting the job done here against Tai with the way he usually fights. Just comes rushing in, but at the end of the day, those straight punches with that massive reach.
Am I mistaken, or did he not take a fucking goddamn straight shot off the dome from Tai Tuivasa, and it did nothing to him? It did nothing to him. He's just like, ow.
Ate it for lunch.
What the fuck?
Yeah, Sergey Pavlovich, very, very impressive. Tai Tuivasa now on a 2-fight skid.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sergey Pavlovich looks like he's going to be something special. So
Yeah.
I think Tai Tuivasa can recover from this because
Oh
Cyril
yeah.
Gane, I mean, everyone expected him to have trouble in that fight. And
Yeah.
then Sergey is emerging as a guy who looks like he could be challenging for a title sooner than
He
later.
needs to fight Cyril. It's gonna
Sergey,
be log jammed. Yeah, just do Sergey and then just tell Sergey and Cyril like, hey guys, I know Curtis. I know the very extremely brave and the very like. I mean, the handicapped Curtis Blades is extremely upset right now
yeah,
because he's just like, dude, what about me?
that guy can't catch a break.
Yeah, yeah, dude. So, he's so that really sucks. I saw it today on Curtis Blades' Instagram. Like he like posted the rankings and like Pavlovich moved up 2 steps ahead of him. So it's just like shit, dude.
And the best Curtis Blades can get is being like a backup fighter for this hypothetical Francis Ngannou versus John Jones fight that they haven't even announced a date for yet, which I don't think, right? Or
No, it's supposed to be not March. Yeah, is it March?
let me
I
take
think it. I think it's supposed to be March, end of March.
the heavyweight rankings on Tapology. Francis does not have a fight book, so nothing's official yet,
Yeah,
which is crazy to think about.
yeah.
I'm still in the camp that John isn't going to fight again, which is crazy because
Ever again?
I was saying that in jest before,
Yeah.
just to be a hater and just to kind of like joke about the fact that he hadn't fought in so long, but now I'm almost starting to believe it.
No, he's gonna fight.
We'll see. Still no sign of Stipe Miocic, who I think would be a good matchup for Sergey Pavlovich. And I don't mean a good matchup as in like I would pick him to beat Sergey Pavlovich, but in terms of like getting this man a fight and keeping him busy, and also getting somebody else who is still highly ranked in a lot of people's opinions back in there
Yeah.
fighting. Because Stipe Miocic is really potentially not going to fight again. I'm still saying it mostly in jest for John Jones, but Stipe, just retire. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
I think Cyril and Sergey should just do it. Just fucking who cares? I mean, it sucks. And then have because Tuivasa is going to need a lot of time. He said he wants a lot of time,
Mhm.
so maybe he comes back for Aspinall, right?
Yeah, I mean that would make a lot of sense. Aspinall's still going to be out. There's no timetable that I'm aware of as for Aspinall's return. And you're right. I mean, Tuivasa, this was his third fight in 2022, so that he's stayed very busy. He fought 3 times in 2021, only once in 2020. It looks like
It's
so.
been brought up by a few different people, and this is a crazy mishandling of the guy's career. And hopefully, he doesn't get CT. Or I mean, he probably already has it, but hopefully, it doesn't really affect him going forward health wise. Is he was medically cleared to fight the week of the fight from his last because he took damage. We talked about it before how the governing bodies will say like how much damage did you take? Okay, you're on medical restriction until so his suspension was up I think like Thursday and then he fought Saturday, but he trained for like a month or two, so he was taking he technically he couldn't fight in the cage, but I mean, and how what was it like less than was it 2 months he got
It's
knocked.
yeah, from September 3rd to December 3rd, so 3 months exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you should take six. Well, everyone says like you get knocked out, you get rocked,
mhm,
you should take 6 months off.
yes, yeah, because you're right. I have heard that 90 days is the amount of suspension that you have to sit out after you've been knocked out. And my understanding is that also applies to training. You're
Yeah.
not cleared to train. So that
uh
I mean, I didn't think about that, and
yeah, well that
I actually forgot that Cyril Gane finished him also.
yeah, and
So
he was training the
yeah,
whole way, why shouldn't have been.
uh-huh.
Obviously now we see it. So
Really, really good point. Good on you to point that out. Yeah, Taito Ivasa should definitely take a break. Falls to 8-5 is his record inside the UFC. That's not his overall record, of course. His overall record is 15-5. a crowd favorite. I'm sure. I think
Good guy, good fighter. Not over.
if his team isn't going to look out for him, I think the UFC will, because I think they know that the kind of viewership that he garners. So he should be due for a favorable heavyweight matchup, which shouldn't be hard to do for him either.
Yeah, no, he'll be fine. I mean, just take some time off. Time heals everything, you know. It's recency, 6 to 8 months from now, the world could look completely different. So everyone's gonna say, "Hey, this guy can fucking bang with anybody. He's fucking dangerous."
One more fight before we switch over to our UFC 282 breakdown. Let's talk about your boy Roman Dolidze. Did you watch this
man,
fight?
Yes, I did. His striking isn't the best, I guess. It's a little clunky, but man, when he gets his hands on you, and it's so crazy the way he literally worked from homie's finger on his right arm to the fucking pinky toe of his fucking left foot, just all the way across his body, trying for every single fucking submission he could possibly fucking get. He worked that guy's whole body till he got it. It's just like limb to foot to arm to wrist to everything, and then fucking calf slicer, and he's just beating the shit out of you from the back. It's so fucking, which he does his best work from the back.
Yeah, and Jack Hermanson is no chump on the ground either.
Oh no, absolutely
Roman
not.
Dolidze brings a level of offensive grappling that we haven't seen in a while, and it's not your it's not your traditional Brazilian jiu-jitsu affair either. I mean, that calf
it's just
slicer,
I'm fucking strong as hell. And
yes, it is a really a real bully style. The calf slicer, all the style points in the world,
That's so cool.
Uses it to keep Jack Hermanson down, and it just rains down punches from back control. A really, really big statement by Roman Dolidze, and surely a fight that if you weren't already on this guy's bandwagon because you've been listening to the Fight Plug podcast, if you watch this fight, you definitely don't want to miss any Roman Dolidze fights moving forward.
The only person is JP Bice does not want to see a Roman Dolidze fight ever. Hermanson was chewing his leg up a little bit, and he was having to switch stances. So in the division he's in, might want to learn how to check a leg kick or just not get hit so. That's the only criticism I have, is that it looked like if Jack Hermanson wanted to get a meaty part of Roman Dolidze's leg, he could take it at any point, and it was just always right there for him, and it always looked like it hurt, and it was. I mean, if Dolidze's being honest with himself, he was switching stances because he was getting kicked in that lead leg quite a bit. So
yeah. This also caps off a busy year for Dolidze. He fought three times also in 2022. His previous fight was in October 29th, and before that, June 18th. So a guy who we were probably going to see a lot of in 2023 as well. All right, let's jump over to this UFC 282 pay-per-view card. The main event fell apart, and now we are left with Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev, which isn't a bad fight on paper. I'm a Jan Blachowicz fan. I would not have expected that he would be challenging for the light heavyweight title or the championship this soon, or even at all. And yet here we are. I'll start by giving my breakdown of this fight.
Go for it.
Magomed Ankalaev seems like he's better almost everywhere. Aside from like the power, right. I have to give Jan Blachowicz the power. And I think I like some of Jan Blachowicz's defensive tendencies. He's good at blocking the leg kicks. Despite the fact that Magomed has the advantage in a lot of areas, I still feel like I'm leaning Jan Blachowicz in this fight because of Magomed Ankalaev's output.
Right.
And just looking at some of his previous fights, let me pull up his record right now. I was left underwhelmed, and I'm a fan of Magomed Ankalaev, and it was like after the beating Ion Cutelaba twice and then Nikita Krylov, I was like, okay, this guy's gonna be challenging for a title.
He smothered
in the future.
Nikita.
Yeah.
He fucking smothered Nikita Krylov.
And Nikita Krylov's on a very, very good run right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, he kept working up. And then as he got closer and closer to contention, he started to just underperform. Still getting the win, still unanimous
Right.
decision wins, ground and pound finish
Right.
over Anthony Smith. But I just feel like he lets his opponent lead the dance a little too much. And we can't get it twisted because of his name or with the part of the world that he comes from, and assume that he
Yeah.
brings any of that kind of game. He's certainly better, I would say, skill wise at wrestling, but I feel like Jan Blachowicz has the size and just good enough defensive wrestling to keep it on the feet. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit more of a stalemate. There's a potential for a boring decision here, and I think that when I'm calling for a potential boring decision, I think that means that it's up in the air. Like the fight could literally go either way. But I
Same.
think that
Mm-hmm.
power is going to be the difference maker if Magomed can't get the fight to the ground. And I think the longer the fight goes on, the tougher it's going to be for him to get the fight to the ground, because Jan Blachowicz is a big, strong, physical presence. And even if he does get Jan to the ground, he has 5 minutes to do that, to keep getting him down. I don't think that Jan is in I don't think Jan's in too much danger of getting finished on the ground.
No.
I think, if he goes there, he can lose the round there if he gets held there, which I don't even think that that's going to happen. I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm fading Magomed Ankalaev here. I still think he's the better fighter, but when I'm seeing this fight play out in my head, I'm seeing Jan Blachowicz get his hand raised. I don't think it's gonna be by knockout. I think I'm going Jan Blachowicz by decision in this fight, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just a Jan Blachowicz mark, because I called for him to be the UFC champion before he won it the first time, and here we are. So I gotta roll with my guy Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah.
Polish
I
power.
absolutely love Jan Blachowicz. Absolutely love the Polish fighters. We always kind of all watch KSW, since and especially the last few months, with Gamrot and all, a lot of these guys that come out of there. I see it on that end though. I almost feel the exact same way that you do, which is making me want to take Ankalaev, because I'm almost feeling like why am I, is this just because I think like Jan can win, or is it because I like Jan so much? Is that what it is? So I'm almost going to go against myself and take Ankalaev here, because I don't want to trick myself into just being because I'm not as much of a fanboy for UFC fighters, especially like this generation of UFC fighters. It's mostly like older guys where I just forget that they lost ever, and they were just always amazing. But in this case, I feel like I'm being, and I'm not trying to, this is all me. Like what you said was 100% true. And I'm hoping, not only am I hoping for that, but I'm glad you put it the way that you did. And I'm glad you took the lead on the break, because that was well said, all of it. But I feel like I'm a little too fanboy, and I feel like I have a blind spot here in this one, where I really like Ankalaev, and he's the guy, he's the MMA fighter of today, really. Not from where he's from, not because of his name, not because of any of that stuff. It's just he can pretty much do it all, and then he can fucking throw some spinning kicks and shit. So that's pretty fucking sick too. Like, you mean you can do a Dagestani handcuff and then get up and then pull a Wonderboy fucking karate kick to the side of the guy's head? That's pretty crazy. You don't see that every day. And I just think he does have a good training camp. He has been in there training with some really good guys. I just feel like it just makes too much sense for him to go in there and win. And I think he's just a mentally strong. They're both very mentally strong. Like, this isn't no Kevin Holland issues with either one of these guys, where you just don't know what you're going to get. Wild card shit. Like, so I'm going to take Ankalaev, but it's just because I feel like I have a blind spot, and it's not over anything other than I think that I'm just loving Jan too much, Jan Blachowicz too much in this fight for it to be real. That's how I feel.
Something about when Jan Blachowicz is an underdog in a fight that just makes me look at it and go like, Yeah, but what if he punches the other guy?
Yeah, have they thought of that yet? Wait, call Vegas right now and tell them.
But yeah, because he does have that the difference making power, and we've seen it. But after winning
But
the
being the
title, and
underdog doesn't necessarily mean that sharp money or the smart money thinks that Jan Blachowicz is. It's that they just don't want so much money to be on Jan.
hmm,
To like we had talked about, where the line moves so much for what? Like, what's the inside information? So I think Vegas kind of wants to it keep it a little closer, and they don't want everybody to bet on um, uh, Jan Blachowicz or everybody. So I think it's a little bit of a manufactured
hmm.
of a line just to keep the money honest. So there's that too.
Any thoughts about the fact that they were going from training for a 3-round fight and then switching it up to a 5-round fight? Do you think that has any
On
potential
Ankalaev, it
difference?
does
Uh-huh.
for sure. But he's had 5 round fights, fight night paper or fight night main event. So I don't know.
Ankalaev, yeah, the Thiago Santos fight was 5 rounds. That went the distance, and it looks like that is actually it.
These guys just seem like
So
mentally strong
yeah,
dudes.
yeah, and that, you know what? I hadn't really thought about that until I asked you just now. But Jan Blachowicz definitely does have much more 5-round experience too. So just another reason I would kind of lean towards him a bit.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say that that's going to be the deciding factor in this fight. I think overall Jan Blachowicz experience would probably do it. But yeah, another interesting thing to take into account for
I
anybody out
think
there.
Ankalaev wins by like he's almost like what we saw with the fight we just broke down with the Litsi, where he kind of catches him with a kick or maybe a body kick or some shots to the back of the ear, and then Jan's down on the ground, and Uncle Ive is just pounding him,
Mhm.
hammer fisting him, hammer fisting him, hammer fisting him,
Yeah.
and it's just there. The rest is like you got to do something, and then that's it.
That might have to be the way that it goes because yeah, Ankalaev he doesn't really shoot for takedowns.
Nah,
He's kind of just plays a really conservative stand up game, and if the fight goes to the ground, he's prepared to follow you there. But he's not. It has to be of circumstance. Yeah, he doesn't
hmm
really generate the takedown too
I think
much.
it's gonna be he's gonna clip him with something. It's gonna be a well timed shot, and it's gonna be it. I just feel like it ends it that way. Like tap, not tap due to strikes, but stop due to strikes.
Hmm. Right on. Let's move on to our co-main event, or the new co-main event. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett is back in action against Jared Flash Gordon in his, what is this, Paddy's fourth UFC fight? Yes, it is his
Yes.
fourth UFC fight. He is coming off of wins over Jordan Levitt, Rodrigo Vargas, and Luigi Vendramini. Jared Gordon is coming off of a win against Leonardo Santos. And earlier in the year, he got a loss against Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson, quite the prospect. So, very forgivable record. Probably Paddy Pimblett's toughest test in the UFC thus far. He is incrementally like fighting tougher opponents. Jared Gordon has a record of 19-5. But at the same time, looking at Jared Gordon's record, okay, I'll be completely honest here. Jared Gordon's never been a guy who's been on my radar. And
Mm.
looking at his record, pulling up some of his highlights, it's kind of understandable why they would pick Jared Gordon for this fight because it
Yeah.
doesn't really seem like they're matching Paddy Pimblett up with anybody dangerous. And that's not to say that Jared Gordon is a bad fighter because he's not a
He
bad fighter.
also, in the fights that I've seen, just watching replays of it, he
Hmm.
also likes to wear guys like a backpack, and they
Hmm.
kind of just roll on him, and he allows it, which the Patty likes to do that shit. So
Yeah.
I think they're kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, Patty. Here's a dude that's gonna let you choke him out on your very first pay per view. Here you go.
Yeah, of Jared Gordon's 11 UFC fights, only one has been a win by of his 7 wins in the UFC, I should say. Only one has been by KO, TKO. All the others gone to decision. And throughout his entire career, all of his losses are finishes. So, I mean, I think we see the pattern here. It's
Yeah.
guys who, like I said, offensively aren't dangerous, aren't guys who are going to risk ending the fight early for Paddy,
Yep.
but also due to who like to finish in dramatic fashion. Not like to
Right.
be, but but I don't know. I really don't even know what to expect from this fight. I don't think that they would put him in there if they thought he was a serious danger for Paddy Pimblett. I mean, when your biggest fight or your biggest accomplishment is being one of the guys that Charles Oliveira obliterated in his lightweight run.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no common opponents to look at. Pretty much, if you look at Jared Gordon's record, any names you recognize are the guys he lost to.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Good point, man.
So another Paddy Pimblett fight.
Yeah.
I'll give Paddy Pimblett some credit, though. His fights have been generally exciting.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's a nail biting type of situation. Like, is this guy going to beat him? Is he going to derail his hype train? But he has good looks in there. He's gotten good throws. He's been in bad situations, and he's gotten the reversals. So I think that, as much as I want to shit on Paddy Pimblett because I don't like the guy's attitude necessarily,
Right.
I don't like the way that he markets himself. His fights have been entertaining.
They sure have.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I'll be watching all of them, and I'll be upfront and honest that I'm watching to see him lose, hopefully. But the guy makes it happen, and I don't think anybody's disappointed in any of his bouts thus far in the UFC.
No, yeah. Well put, man. Well put. So I guess you were talking about his attitude, and I had mentioned it to you about his podcast with Dana White and all the kind of shitty stuff he had said about a certain media member. That was kind of weird, no?
So was he on a podcast with Dana White?
Yeah, he did a podcast with Dana White, and kind of, if I could steal a term from the top G, unprompted, he went out. He went out, and he just started like railing on Ariel, and he was just saying like, he just called him a rodent. He said that he's a rat, that he was side dissing me, that he's biased against me. He wanted me to not take paid interviews or paid content creation so that I can come on his show for free and do an interview while he gets all the benefits from getting a bump for me, and told me that it's exposure for me. And then just name called Ariel and kind of said a bunch of rude stuff about him. And then of course Dana doesn't take much for Dana to get on that Ariel's a piece of shit hype train. So he pretty much went off on him too, saying like, I have told you this is one of the worst people in sports media. Just talking all it
Such
was
a
crazy.
ridiculous claim. One of the worst people. When Skip Bayless exists, we're gonna call Ariel Helwani one of the worst
when
people.
you allow Stephen A. Smith to to come on and stand next to Joe Rogan and explain what the fuck's going on, and you're gonna call Ariel Helwani a fucking okay. But yeah, it was pretty funny. And then Ariel gets on there on his show, and he goes like a whole hour and like past an hour.
Ariel does that, man.
And he is so
long,
good.
Man.
But he's just a wordy ass motherfucker.
Yeah.
And like when I listen to him, I'm like, damn, this guy can just talk, dude. This guy can just say things. And it's just so embarrassing. I don't think Patty's just, you kind of knew he is, and Dana's an idiot too. Like, why would you do this with a guy like Ariel Helwani of all fucking people? It was like Brendan Schaub did the same fucking thing. Like, dude, you can barely speak 3 words, put 3 words together coherently, dude. And you're gonna go up against this guy who's like a Pulitzer Prize, like worthy type of writer, like a straight up author, dude.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, go on. I was just throwing something at my cat. It was trying to walk on my desk.
No, it was like, why are you doing this? And then, so did you did you see any of it, or did you read anything about it or anything? I know
Yes.
we had mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we got on, I kind of picked it up and I read a short article about it, and I watched a clip of Ariel Helwani's response, which is exactly what you'd expect. I know in our chat I said that I kind of feel like Ariel got played there because
Yeah.
it's kind of it's obvious
He
what.
took the bait. Yeah.
Yeah, he's seriously baited. I mean, you mentioned it too. Talk about being a mouthpiece for Dana. Like, because
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that Patty was on a podcast, like literally with Dana right next to him. Or I don't know if maybe they called in or some shit.
Patty's YouTube channel is sponsored by Howler Monkey or Howler Head.
Mhm.
Uh, was it whiskey or whatever? What is that?
Yeah,
So Dana's fucking alcohol fucking
yeah,
sponsors
some
Patty.
frat drink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I'm not super surprised that Patty Pimblett would be a total bootlicker for Dana, even though Dana's actively ripping him off. Like,
Yeah.
let's be real. Like, he's not paying Patty Pimblett what Patty Pimblett's actually worth. But besides that, like, yeah, it's a little disappointing that that Ariel Helwani would go off for like an hour and a half, like clapping back, which I know he's more than capable of doing. And you're right. Like, Ariel is, well, love him or hate him, the guy is, he can go.
Yeah.
I would tell anybody, if you want a real example of like how well Ariel can editorialize something, go look at the MMA, watch the MMA Hour episode right after Leon Edwards won the title from Kamaru Usman, and the way
Yeah.
he just broke down everything, going back to Leon Edwards and the whole 3 piece in a soda thing with George Masvidal, and
Yeah.
fucked it. Like, it was like well done. Like,
He's
Leon
he's
Edwards should pay him for
he's
breaking that
great.
all down. Yeah.
He's great. And as someone who is a bullshitter, even me, I'm just like, damn, bro, god damn,
Uh,
dude, that's really fucking good. And it's just crazy. Like, there's a reason he's on like HBO Real Sports, and
mhm.
like they put him on all these different things. And the thing that I had mentioned to you was that he's very good at making himself the victim in things. And it's so funny how he is just so multi-layered in the way he does it. Because like when he started out with this, he's like, oh, and I'm in the room with my son, and my son, he's very sick. And he has this reaction, and he's just hurting, and he's in pain, and I'm holding my boy, and then I have to get a text about Patty. It's like, dude, already, it's poor fucking Ariel, dude. And then he just goes off and off. But it's just like, God, he did, he did fall into the trap,
Mhm.
but Patty is kind of not seeing the forest for the trees here, because if he loses, it's going to be like you took an L to Ariel
Jared Gordon in
and
one
to
week.
Jared Gordon in one fucking week, dude, while you're fucking saying you're happy with the money that you make. And not only that, like all the information that Ariel had, he fucking was playing voice messages
Mhm.
like on camera. So you're dumb, dude. You're
Yeah,
dumb.
that's
You're
another thing.
objectively, you're fucking stupid, dude.
Ariel will bring receipts. That's
Yeah.
another thing. Like about when Brendan Schaub tried to go with Ariel,
Yeah.
he starts pulling up clips and videos of Brendan Schaub stumbling over his words. And
Verbatim. Yeah. Verbatim reading Patty Pimblett to the emoji.
mm,
Cringe emoji, smile emoji, sweating sad emoji. Hi, lad. Like he's reading it with this like fucking junior college professor, English professor proficiency, like all the emphasis on all the syllables to emojis. He's just reading it. He's like, "Hi, lad. How are you? In town until Wednesday." He's just, and it's just like, Jesus, Patty, come on, dude. How did you not know that? Like this, this motherfucker is that type of guy. Like, how do you not know that?
a funny one recently where he kind of like what you had talked about him, like kind of playing the victim a little bit, but then
Yeah,
using it to kind of come back and sting. He had Chael on his show recently, and he and Chael kind of got into it a little bit because Chael's all about the bit, like we were
yeah,
talking about, and Chael was starting to kind of go to bat for for chuds basically, and was like pounding the drum about like, oh, like free speech, free speech, free speech and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the context was, but Ariel brings up Trump, and he says, "Look, how do you feel about Trump, or the people around him or something?" And I think he said like, people are calling him a disgraced president and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chael takes that bait, and Chael goes.
Yeah.
After Chael was beating the drum about free speech for like 5 minutes, Chael goes and takes that one little bit about what Ariel said, calling him a disgraced president, and he goes, I think that's kind of rude. You as a Canadian citizen, saying that about our president, I think that's very rude. And Ariel goes like, well, actually, I've been a citizen for 2 weeks, so I can say whatever I want. And I was like, okay, that was kind of a 10-8 on Chael. Like, come on, dude, you can't beat the drum about free speech and then do exactly what you criticize the opposition of doing, which is like being offended by everything.
Yeah. And with the thing about what Ariel did, it's just it's so crazy, because he's concise and just completely laying the case out, and then he's playing on people's emotions to like feel sorry for him, and then like at the end, no one even said this. No one even thought about it. No one, and then he just brings in, he's like at his most emotional. I think it's like right around the hour mark. And then he's like, yeah, you're saying that people were calling you out for what you said about Ariel, or what Ariel said about you, and that you have to deal with haters and I don't. People call me a Zionist shill. People call me a dirty Jew rat. And it's like, whoa, dude, take it easy. Like, take it down. Like, nobody was saying that.
Uh-huh.
Dude. Whoa.
And
nobody was saying that.
Here's why Ariel loses, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is in this scenario specifically with Patty Pimblett, was because Patty Pimblett just needed a soundbite, and he got all the clicks he needed to get.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people, compared to the kind of numbers or the kind of people who saw what Patty Pimblett said and absorbed that, those people aren't sitting for an hour and a half and listening to Ariel like systematically break down the entire situation and pull out receipts and all that stuff. So it's like, it doesn't matter.
It's confirmation bias for both sides.
Yeah.
It's Patty's crew's going to take exactly what they want out of it, and they're going to say, see, told you, the guy's just a whiny little bitch.
Yeah.
And fucking Ariel's guys are going to be like, got him again. Don't know why these idiots keep fucking trying to go into this arena. They're so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, did you read the Times? And it's like
undefeated
like,
Ariel Helwani.
Yeah. So it's just like everybody got what they wanted out of it. The UFC got what they wanted out of it. The one thing that I'll take issue with Ariel too is like, he's like, how dare you say that I make any type of money off of fighters? I don't care who's in the chair. I don't get paid any more if it's Conor McGregor or if it's someone who's on a prelim of a Bellator fight. It doesn't matter who it is. I make the same. And it's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I could get 800,000 views or 10,000 views. That's not why I'm here. And that's not what I do. I'm a journalist, goddamn. And it's like, shut up, dude. Because if you pull 10,000 views, you pull 12,000 views, then you pull fucking 6,000, your shit goes down. They don't want you around anymore. So what do you mean it's not dependent on your performance? So on one side, he says like, the performance of my videos and how well they do matters nothing to my career. I don't care. But on the other side, it's like, well, it kind of does. You know, so
it definitely makes a difference in how much money is coming in overall. What he's probably saying is like, yeah, my parent company, I have a contract with them, so it doesn't matter if it does. It really doesn't matter if it only gets this many views. I'm still going to get paid X amount of money because that's what we agreed upon. But what trickles down to the rest of the company probably becomes a lot less if I don't get the Patty Pimbletts and the Conor McGregors and the interviews that are really going to drive viewership. Because he might be telling the truth, but in a way, like, he almost shouldn't even engage on that front because it potentially makes him look bad. You know what I mean? But I don't see why. You'd have to really fucking speculate a lot on why it makes him look bad. But I mean, I do believe that he's not. You can it's because he can admit that he's making money off of fighters because he is. You have
Yeah.
a show where you talk about fighters and you interview fighters. At the end of the day, yes, part of your revenue stream does depend on fighters, but the point is he's not exploiting fighters, and that's all he
Sure.
has to say. You know what I mean? Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's also fucking a lot of fighters would kill to get on Ariel's show too. So
No, and
yeah,
they love it, and it works good for both people. And
yeah,
y Ariel doesn't tell you what you can and can't wear on your on his show. You want to wear a shirt for your brand that you fucking sponsor that have nothing to do with. I'll put it on proudly. I'll mention it. I'll bring it up.
it's a good point. Yeah,
You got a fucking podcast. You got a fucking book. You have your wife is on this fucking reality show. Let's talk about it. I don't give a fuck. Whereas you go to a UFC thing, if it's not a monster can right there,
yeah,
if you're not standing behind a fucking mybookie.com or FanDuel fucking stage, if you're not wearing fucking Venom, I mean, you're
you're
just
not
not
wearing
gonna.
his fucking Reebok, the rock
Yeah,
shoes and
the
stuff.
rock shoes. Then you're not on.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so I mean that's all Ariel has to say. He's like, dude, we both. You're a good fighter. I want to hear from you. My fan base wants to hear from you. You have something that you want to put out to people who most likely would buy your product because or follow you because of the people that I have that target demographic. There I have their attention for a few hours a day. Here we go. Let's do it. It's a symbiotic relationship. You know, that's all he has to say. But then to say like, I don't make money off a fighter, he just gets to. It's just so. I don't know. It's like I enjoy watching certain things on Ariel's show, like just because of the. It's like I don't like Fox News, but sometimes they'll have a story or they'll have a certain take on something. I don't like CNN, but sometimes they'll have a guest that I want to hear from. It's just because they have the platform, so it's a necessary evil.
mhm.
I feel like Ariel's like a necessary type of thing if you like MMA, and he does. Say what you want, he does a fucking really good job.
Yeah. He's definitely good at what he does for sure. Not everybody's cup of tea, but
Yeah,
the guy worked for his platform because he started out after a lot of other guys were in the game already doing what he was doing, and he left a lot of those guys in the dust.
oh,
It's
by
just- yeah,
miles, man. Yeah,
yeah. All right, so let's move on down the card a little bit. Let's see. We got Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Alex Morono. Alex Morono is filling in on short notice because Robbie Lawler had to pull out from this fight with Santiago Ponzinibbio. Ponzi coming off of a 2-fight skid against Michel Pereira and our boy Hands of Steel Jeff Neal. I will say his entire name.
thank you very much.
And then last year, and he's got that win over Miguel Baeza, and then he has another loss in 20. Oh no, I didn't tell you to click on Miguel Baeza. Then he had another loss against another friend of the show, Li Jingliang. Um, I hate when I try and be good at this.
Yeah,
Anyways,
he is a friend of the show. We love
he's
that
a friend
guy.
of the show, dude. Santiago Ponzinibbio. I'm gonna have to. I'm not high on Santiago Ponzinibbio right now. You know what I mean? There's concerning. He hasn't really been quite the same after that Li Jingliang knockout.
Yeah.
He looks like a decidedly like different fighter. It's not to say he didn't have his moments in that Michel Pereira fight early on,
Yeah.
but I think that's what really opened it for me too, because I've been critical of Michel Pereira, and I thought that was a Santiago Ponzinibbio win right there. I thought it was in the
Yeah.
bag. So that kind of like really made me reframe like how I look at Santiago Ponzinibbio and how he's going to be competitive in this welterweight division moving forward. With that said, like I mentioned, the late replacement fighter in Alex Morono, which I think he's fighting him on about 5 days notice.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's hard to call.
I think I was heavy for Ponzi if he was going up against Lawler.
Mhm.
I was gonna hit that fucking
Yeah,
bet everything on Pons. But
Yeah, Lawler's
now I
washed.
don't know. Yeah, now I don't know.
Mhm.
It's kind of scary. And I was almost happy that he was fighting Lawler in a way because I like Ponzinibbio from I mean, God, probably like 3 years ago. I was really high on this guy. 2 years ago, maybe. Um, but I was like, man, he just get that because momentum is a fucking really good cologne. You know what I mean? Winning is a
Yes.
good cologne,
Mhm.
and so to get that against the name, and to get back in the gym, just like I just beat Robbie Lawler, motherfucker. Like I'm gonna get back in the gym. I'm 2023 is my fucking year. Shit could go bad, but but definitely all that evens out with like a couple of days notice. So that's always working in his favor too.
Looking at certain fighters' records, and kind of doing my homework on them a little bit, like preparing for these shows. Like since we started doing this podcast,
Yeah.
sometimes you look at a guy and you just think, "Where did you come from, dude?" Because Morono,
Yeah.
Morono
Yeah.
is 16 fights deep into
Yeah.
his UFC, into his UFC career, and it's
Yeah.
like, dude, like how did you just
Yeah.
barely make it onto my radar? Like it's crazy. Like
Yeah, man, he was fighting when Mickey's was a fucking flagship sponsor, dude. 16 fights, goddamn.
yeah, because it used to be back in the day, like once a guy had like 4 fights in the UFC, I was aware of you.
Yeah.
Like there's no way I didn't know like
It's
who you
just
were,
so
what you
many
were about.
cards, dude. It's just so many cards. Like I used to pride myself on like, no, I watch every UFC event
Hmm.
and I watch it from beginning to end. And I just can't. I, as neglectful of a father as I want to be, I can't. I just can't do it anymore. Like every fucking Saturday, goddamn, dude, I just can't. So fucking Disney, man.
It's a lot. All right, let's get into these middleweights. No, I didn't even officially make a pick. I'll go Morono, even though
Yeah,
it's on
I'll take
short notice.
Ponzinibbio.
Okay, cool. We got some parity. All right, let's get into these middleweights. Darren Till, Dricus Duplessis. This is going to be one of the more intriguing fights. Is Darren Till going to take another L? Let's take a look at Darren Till's record here. Uh, Coming off of a two fight losing skid against Derek Brunson and Robert Whitaker, he last won against Kelvin Gastelum in 2019. Prior to that, he dropped fights against George Masvidal and Tyron Woodley. Um, Darren Till's in a bad way here. Kelvin Gastelum, he won a split decision over Kelvin Gastelum, and I thought
Then
Kelvin won
and
that
then
fight.
and then Derek Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Brunson just, I mean,
Round two, rear naked
god
choke. I
damn.
don't think the training with Hamzat has been anything more than a meme, or really, or
Right.
marketing. I just, you know, Darren Till's not coming out with any new looks or anything that he picked up in his time training with Hamzat, and it doesn't really seem like they're thick as thieves anymore at all.
He just came out with like alcoholism, and he's connected to a warlord now. So it's like, what did you really get out of that dog?
Yeah. And honestly, Darren Till's like record should be even worse because, like I was saying about that Kelvin
Yeah,
Gastelum win, I don't think he won that fight.
yeah.
I would need to rewatch it, but I remember not thinking that he won that Stephen Thompson fight either.
That was one of the more boring fucking
It was
fights,
bad.
and I had said that like I was watching these fights at my office computer, which I can't have sound on, especially like
Mhm.
UFC fight sound. So I'm just watching them in the background while I'm doing it, and I'm watching them like this is fucking boring. And the only thing about it, so then I know like okay, so obviously, so I go, I thought this was a good fight. Was what, but all he's doing is like, what? And then Wonderboy throws a spinning kick, and he's like, missed me, fuck you, and then like the crowd, and then he's fighting in England, right? Wasn't he fighting in London, or am I wrong about that?
That fight was. It's not telling me. Just a sec. I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I believe so. And so he, it,
Yes, it was in Liverpool.
yeah, all he was doing was like, ha ha ha, and then like he's like telling the crowd to cheer, and then every round he's like putting his hands up, and they're fucking doing some crazy soccer chant for him. But like watching it with no sound, I was like, this is one of the shittier fights I've seen in my entire fucking life. What in the fuck? And this is your flagship win, dude? Please,
He
dude.
got a lot of rub for that Robert Whitaker loss also, and people were talking about how
Yeah.
it was like a chess match of a fight, and that was not a very a fun fight to watch either, man.
And
That
that
was
was, I think, like my his small Rob's like was just beginning to learn that his small intestine had some real fucking problems with
mhm.
his stomach, right? At that around that time.
Yeah.
So he was fighting someone who had no idea that he had this crazy ass fucking injury.
On the other end of the cage will be standing Dricus Duplessis,
Savage ass
the
motherfucker.
the South African, still knocks with a record of
Still knocks Nate. What the hell? That name fucking. I go, yeah, that is his name. Because I thought it was, and I could be wrong too. Like, so this, I could either look like a fucking idiot. Hopefully I do because it's funny. But I've heard like him being introduced and they say still knocks. And I thought it was like, that's like a South African joke or whatever the fuck. um, but it's still Knox. Like, so what is that? Where does that? How's that derived? That's fucking sick. That is a sick ass name.
I have no
What the
idea
hell?
about the origins of his nickname or what, but yeah, it's one of my
That's
favorite
fucking
nicknames right
sick,
now.
dude. And then if you look at the gentleman as he's standing there, still Knox. It's just like, whoa, dude, this guy's gonna murder. And then,
He's built like
so
a
then,
comic book character.
and and Darren Till's gonna die because go. So we talk about so Roberto Soldic, right, was like a huge name. I think he went to ONE FC.
Mm-hmm.
He was KSW. that that famous bull's calling my name right now, dog. It's fucking 11:05. This pin rip is like long gone. No, he fought in KSW for belts. He has a split against Roberto Soldic, who is like one of the biggest stars outside of the UFC in the long fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
This guy has fucking. We talked about it with Gamrot. We were wrong. I don't think we were wrong. I just think it didn't work out when we talked about Gamrot against Benil, because Benil really is just that motherfucker. But
He is that guy.
yeah, apparently. But so Dricus has fought for belts in big promotions. He's fought in KSW. He's fought against the biggest fucking guys. Darren Till is nobody. Like, and you're not going to fucking your games and the only thing and the thing too is that you're not going to show Dricus anything that he hasn't seen.
Yes.
Darren Till's not.
Mm-hmm.
There are guys that Dricus will fight later on that he's going to be like, oh shit, okay, this is a little different. But Till's not going to show him anything.
And there's one thing that Dricus Duplessis hasn't seen in a while, or well, excuse me, I totally misspoke there. He most recently saw that, but he doesn't see much of, and that is guys who can go the distance with him.
Yeah.
Because of his fights. Literally, I'm looking at all of them right now, and Brad Tavares is the first man who he has not finished in his career.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. This can't be right, is it? All of his fights have he's never gone to a decision until his Brad Tavares fight, which is fucking insane. That's nuts.
Darren Till's a good striker. Okay. Or at least he's in the UFC for striking. when you have seen him do well in a fight, it's because he can kind of get out and then slide in and then get out again. So well-timed straight punches. Dricus can overextend a little bit from the fights that I watched. When he's going to kill the guy, he's like, I'm going to kill you now. And he really puts everything into it. Mm-hmm. So if he can miss and Till can kind of come over the top or parry something and catch him on the way in from an overextended, swing from his fucking knee, then maybe, but there's zero chance that Darren Till wins this fight.
Pop quiz. Wait, what am I looking at here? I was going to say, do you think that Darren Till has any wins by submission without looking?
I'm not looking at anything right now. Yeah, no, he doesn't.
Okay. Well, I'm getting confusing results from Tapology because I'm looking.
You said that very pop quiz.
Pop quiz. Yeah.
Answer me these riddles.
Because I'm seeing this submission win on his record, but when I go up to the summary, it's saying that he doesn't have any submission wins. But never mind. That's only the UFC. Yes, he has a submission win on his
Jungle
record.
Fight.
He might have. He might have more, but this man has a 24.
He caught the guy that stabbed him in a nightclub and fucking broke his wrist or whatever the fuck it was. Didn't he get stabbed at a nightclub or some shit?
I don't know. Do you want to guess the submission or take a wild guess?
Uh, d- d- d-
I'll tell you right now, it's not.
Peruvian
It's not a
necktie.
common one. That was a good guess because I was about to say it's not a common one.
Yeah.
No, by toe hold. This man has a fucking toe hold
Whoa.
submission win in mixed
Toe
martial
hold
arts.
till. Damn.
So I don't know, man. That actually makes me worried for Drakus. No,
Yeah. Dude.
no, yeah, I think it's Drakus's fight to lose. And you make a good point though
Yeah.
about the strengths that Darren Till has. Drakus Duplessis has
Look
shown.
at him now. What did you say earlier?
Look at him
God
now. Drakus Duplessis. Drakus, he's willing to empty the tank, and that's the
Yeah.
only thing that worries me a little bit. Is if he doesn't have any respect for Darren Till at all, which he shouldn't have a whole heck of a lot. But if he doesn't
Yeah.
have any at all, he could potentially get sloppy, and he could just decide like, oh, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to put him away in 1 or 2 rounds. I'm going to try and end this
Right.
early and completely empty the tank. That could leave openings for Darren Till down the stretch. But I think he's going to have to. The stars will have to align, and Darren Till will have to kind of like exploit every opening that Dricus Duplessis gives him. At the end of the day, I just really don't think Darren Till wants it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what I think it really comes down to, because he's not necessarily a guy who's been like plagued by injuries.
His and against Brunson, when he was just like folded up, knees in his chest, just looking at the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, dude, just quit. It's always been allowed. Like, no one is gonna hurt your family if you just say, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, no one is there. Like, this, you're not fighting for the CCP in China. Like, there's no, family members aren't, at risk here. You can just say, I quit. Like, just say, like, I don't want to do this, dude. Go. He would be amazing. Tell me he wouldn't be amazing at just being a funny guy on like BT Sport or
Well, I think that's what's
BBC or
I think that's what makes it hard for him to step away. not that I really think he should fucking retire already, but
look
if
at
he's
us, dude. We're just
yeah,
here we are.
but if he is, I think that's what definitely makes it hard for him to step away, because for what he's lacking in the cage and his actual fighting, he is a black belt at promotion. Like, and this is a guy who's famously failed up for years now. Like, the dude is 1-5, or he's like 1-5.
He got Robert Whitaker to fight him when Robert Whitaker did not want to. Didn't want nothing to do with him.
Yeah, he was 1-3 in his previous 3 fights going into that. He had no business fighting Robert Whitaker, and yet, even sitting at 1-4, at
every fucking comment stream,
sitting at 1-4, going back to 2019, and the champion Israel Adesanya is still saying your name, still saying like, I still got to fight the Scouser, but you just got to get a win, big boy. Like, people want him to succeed. It's fucking crazy. It's like he was getting closer to the title the more he lost.
Yeah,
it didn't make any sense.
Raw Dog, that was so badass with Mike Perry.
And when he started making multiple Instagram accounts.
And then he had like Raw Dog beer or something like that. It's just like, dude, sick, dude.
He's
That's so funny.
Yeah, he's a promotional gold mine. Like, he was Paddy Pimblett before the UFC figured out, like, oh, we should just give this guy favorable fights all the time. We should like protect him. This is what happens when you don't protect a Paddy Pimblett, and you end up with a Darren Till.
Yeah, man.
And I thought he was better than that for a while too. Like, it's not like I saw Darren Till coming into the UFC and was like, this guy's just a hype job. He's not even good. Like, I saw him knock out Cowboy Cerrone. That's when he got pretty much landed on my radar, and I was like, oh shit, cool. Like, this guy's probably pretty good. So it's not like with Paddy.
He was doing okay against Masvidal too. Like, to start, it was.
I think he knocked Masvidal down.
Yeah, it was okay, and he did look functionally like okay against Whitaker. So it's not like this guy, was barely in there with nobodies. But I think for me, I just cannot get the Derek Brunson fight out of my head. Mm-hmm. That was like, you do not even belong in the UFC, dude. You do not belong in MMA. Just quit. So
that was a good
I can't get that out of my head right now.
Yeah. All right, let me swipe again and see. Oh, of course, we do have something else to talk about still before we wrap up.
Yeah.
That is our boy Ilya Tapuria versus Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah.
My main event of the night, probably yours too. This is going to be the one I'm tuning
Yes,
in
sir.
most for. Ilya Taporia, the Georgian Spaniard. I'm not really sure where he comes from, but that's a pretty fucking dope ass combination.
Yeah.
At 12-0 versus the wrestler Bryce Mitchell, 15-0. Ilya Taporia, we know what he brings to the table. This man throws heavy, heavy leather. He's looking to take your head off with every shot. And he has, if I'm not mistaken, a perfect takedown defense stat. He's
Goddamn.
not officially been taken down
Did
in
not
the
know that.
UFC. That might just be specifically inside the UFC. I should have
Yeah.
verified that. I'm not sure if it's throughout his entire career, but that's very, very impressive, and that is going to be tested over and over and over
Yes,
when he
it
gets in there
is.
with Bryce Mitchell. How do you? I'll let you kind of go first if you want to do a little bit of a breakdown of this fight, or even if you just want to give a pick. We have been going pretty long.
My brother in Christ, I got Bryce Mitchell. I don't know why. I'm just gonna take Bryce Mitchell on this one.
We've been fanboying out for Ilya Taporia for a while, but
I have, yeah.
I also have reservations about this fight. If I have to
Yeah.
be honest, like Bryce Mitchell is the guy I would have tried to get Ilya Taporia to avoid in the division.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at featherweight, there's a lot of, especially once you get into the top 10, the top 5, there are a lot of good all-around guys, but
Yeah.
Bryce Mitchell kind of fills this role as one of the few guys who's just like, no, it's very, very obvious and evident what I come here to do. I come to put you on your back, and yeah, he's just fantastic in the scramble. But at the same time, I want to see, especially with that 100% takedown defense
right.
stat. I'm looking at some of the names, and I'm thinking about some of the fights that Bryce Mitchell's been in. And you look at a guy like, say, Edson Barboza, his previous opponent, and think like, well, that's a guy who should have been able to try and punish him. But that was exactly a striker versus grappler matchup.
Right.
And we know what happened there. He consumed Edson Barboza. I mean, you gave your pick, so is it that you're not convinced that the defensive wrestling is there, or do you just kind of think that Bryce Mitchell's just on
It's not
another
that
level?
I think Bryce Mitchell is on a very high level, and Taporia. I guess if you got Taporia for me, you've got like Alexandre Pantoja, you've got Shavkat Rakhmonov, of these guys who are young, who Arman Sarukian, these guys who are young fucking killers that like I always have it, like I know MMA, like, and I'll just throw one of their names out and they'll be like, and so like, like one of those type of guys where like, it's super exciting to fucking see these guys fight.
It's always funner to make up a name and see if they just go along with you. But anyway.
Yeah. No, but I guess the word I'm looking for is like, I don't even want to see their future because it's so cool right now to be like, well, I know about him and I've seen quite a few of his fights and he's very good and this is why. And like you build up this whole mythos behind these guys without really, but they do have a lot behind them. I don't know. I just think that Bryce Mitchell's so fucking dead set on what he's going to do. And it's I think a lot of times that guys in the UFC, like we were watching with Kevin Holland, like just go for the takedown. Just do it. Why? I think a lot of UFC fighters, especially for whatever reason in high levels, just don't have that. Like I said, if it's good enough for you to do it when you're rocked and you're on your last legs and you're just reaching, hoping to get a takedown to like stop or to take it to stop the forward momentum of your opponent, why not just do it from the beginning? And Bryce Mitchell's like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take you down and you're not going to get leverage on me. You're going to have to beat the shit out of me from your back, from your side, up against the cage. It looks a lot like what Habib and the Dagestani guys do, like really good cage wrestling. And that's there's wrestling takedowns and then there's cage wrestling takedowns. And someone who's just dead set about it and trains it hard and does a really good job at it and is efficient, he's not gonna gas himself out doing it. He's not gonna it's just muscle memory to him. So if Tapuria can really fucking excel in this fight, in this matchup, then he is who we think he is.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's a tough fight for Ilya also because I think a 5-round fight probably favors him a little bit more,
Right.
if for nothing else, just to give him more opportunities at the beginning of rounds to
Right.
make this
He's
happen.
up for at least a minute and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, because kind of like what I said about our boy Still Knox, Ilya is not as wild as him, but he's also
Right.
a guy, especially against an opponent like Bryce Mitchell. He's going to be looking to empty the tank. He already throws everything into every punch that he throws, and describing him, it kind of makes it sound like he might be like a headhunter, like really sloppy, and he's not. Like he has really really good clean boxing. He might be a bit of a headhunter, and he could probably stand to not throw everything with full power, but
Right.
that's what got him to the dance, and yeah,
You can't take that away from guys. You can't just say don't do that anymore
true,
because
yeah,
I think we've talked about it in a few different fights. Is like, do you take that away from him? Is he anything? Is he not? Is he just not the guy he is? So you make a really good point, man.
yeah. And the moment you tell him not to do that, he is thinking, he's dedicating a certain
Yeah.
amount of his bandwidth, and when he shouldn't be thinking in the fight, it should just be a flow state.
Right.
Oh man, I'm also going to go with Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah.
I was a
But
little
I think
bit.
I hope we're both wrong though. I really like both of these guys. I really
Yeah.
like Bryce Mitchell. He's a crazy fucking guy.
Love Bryce Mitchell, the fighter. I mean,
Yeah.
not crazy about Bryce Mitchell, the person,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I,
but,
I
I mean, we
actually
might
really
be-
like his style of fighting.
We
though.
might be. And, he said, I mean, for all the crazy stuff that he says, like flat earth or whatever the heck he's talking about, and going after Joe Rogan for, I don't know, whatever. Kidding with the guy, he might be very sweet and very cool. Like, some of those people surprise you, like people that kind of have the worldview that he does. They'll surprise you.
And you know what? And to add to that point too, because you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm sure Bryce Mitchell's a perfectly nice guy. Like he's not a. I think it's funny too. I kind of respect Bryce Mitchell a bit more than some other people that I'm very critical of, because I think Bryce Mitchell is sincere.
Yes,
It's not
that's
bullshit.
exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah,
I
like-
wasn't getting at like he's right, wrong, or anything. It's like he fucking goes with it. He's
He
just
believes
like,
it.
I don't give a fuck.
He's not saying it to
Yeah.
get clicks. It's not ho shit.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm saying these outrageous things for attention. Like, no, that's Bryce Mitchell. He's just being who he is.
Yeah. And he's letting you know out of the gate. Because nothing worse than someone you think they're one way, and then you get back to the crib, you chill, you have a couple of beers, and you're like, oh no, what the fuck? It's like, he's like, hey, motherfucker, I advertised the whole fucking time, and then you still came back and wanted to blaze it. Like, that's on you, dude, not on me. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're both going Bryce Mitchell in this one. I kind of think I just needed to hear it come from your lips first, and to kind of validate me in also
Yeah.
picking Bryce Mitchell.
but it's not this is a very hard fight to root for anyone, just because if they're going up against anyone else, I'm rooting for Topuria against anyone else. I'm rooting for Mitchell up against anyone else. The only reason I'm picking Mitchell is I have to pick someone, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, the way the styles break down in this fight. I mean, he has a tool that Ilya Topuria just doesn't have.
Would not be surprised if Ilya again gets him with the shot behind the, because there's always, for me, I always just see shots behind the ear. Bryson ducks his head but doesn't duck it enough, and Topuria catches him behind the ear, and it's like Cain Velasquez against Junior Dos Santos, where it's just like, oh no.
And it's funny that you mentioned specifically shots behind the ear, because that's
Yeah.
kind of what you get when you get a puncher like Topuria. Because when you're throwing a 100% of your power into a punch, you are not adjusting it in route to the
mid-round.
target.
Yeah,
Like it's
mid-range,
just
yeah.
it's going where you threw it, and if Bryce is ducking his head or he doesn't get completely out of the way, you can get grazed by it. And I mean, there's a reason that it'll fuck with your equilibrium when you're punching that hard.
Yep.
Last fight, you don't have to give a full breakdown, but let me get your pick for Chris Curtis, Action Man versus Joaquin Buckley. This is going to be this is my don't miss it of the undercard, because I think that you really can't miss a Joaquin Buckley fight. The guy.
I'm gonna take. Ah, man. I'm gonna take Curtis.
I'm gonna go with Joaquin Buckley. Not
Good.
not high on Chris
That's
Curtis.
cool.
So let's place a little fucking preliminary bet on that. Off
Well,
air.
I know because I went really okay, but I went really. We did make the mention of it. I'm gonna shave for the week of Volkanovski against Islam. I will do the bet we made. I'm not. I have Christmas holiday photos, so I couldn't go into my holiday photos looking like Abdul Manap, fucking Nurmagomedov. Like I couldn't go into.
What
I
a
could take.
mensch.
Yeah, imagine me holding my son and like Brandon. That was an interesting facial hair choice. I just. Yeah.
No one will notice. I technically go with the fucking. I get through the Dagestani cut beard all the time. Dude.
Yeah.
I just don't have the right size clippers to trim my mustache so that it really looks like it's the right, like the same length as my beard.
The wall peanut.
The wall
Dude,
peanut.
So peanut.
So
I think it's like $50, but it's amazing.
I'll check it out. So what always ends up happening is once my beard gets to a certain length, I'll trim it down and then just also go with a 0 on the mustache. And then like after after like a day or two.
Bold.
Yeah, after like a day or
That
two,
made me
it evens out.
anxious.
No, I've been doing it all the time.
I do one level lower than what my that wall peanut, I do a 2 and then I do a 1 on the mustache.
Okay.
And then I do a 1 on this part. Yeah. Awesome moments in podcast history here.
Yeah, I'm sure all the listeners really enjoyed that one. Yeah. Thanks again for joining me, Brandon. We should put an end to this one. And to anybody who doesn't know what you were talking about with that bet, because did we ever talk about it on the episode?
I don't remember, but I don't want you to feel like I'm fucking welching out, because I am welching.
Nah.
But it's just because I don't want to look like a piece of shit to my aunt in Florida who's like, what? She's gonna message my mom and be like, why is Brandon's beard like that? And my mom's like, he lost a bet. He has a podcast. And then it's like, what? And then my aunt's gonna message me and like,
you have a podcast. The more embarrassing part is having to explain your podcast.
And then the more embarrassing part is when I explain it and then they find it and then they see it and then they're just like, oh well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Maybe one day you can end up like this guy or that guy.
Yeah. So the bet that we're referencing was
Mom, don't talk about my podcast in front of everybody, Mom.
was from the Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev fight. Yeah. We had a bet that if Charles Oliveira won, I was going to bleach my hair, a la shoot the box, and that if Islam won, that you were going to get the Dagestani fro headpiece and shave your mustache. And yeah, you're right. You didn't deliver. But I totally forgot about it. I actually didn't even remember. And we never made a public announcement. So that's also why I wasn't going to make you follow through with it, because we never got around to it.
And then also, I couldn't find the fucking hat. And then I found the hat. It's like $180. I'm like, I'm not paying $180.
No, there's you can get a blonde fro for $15.
But yeah, but the week of that fight, we'll do an on-screen pod, and I'll wear it, the facial hair and the wig.
Hell yeah, dude, that's gonna be so fun. Thank you for reminding me of this. I'm looking forward to that now. Folks, enjoy the fights this weekend,
which is just in time for Valentine's Day, and then I will be at some teppanyaki place with my wife, looking like fucking Khamzat Chimaev. Or Khamzat Chimaev's chubby little brother.
Looking forward to it, man. Thanks again as always, folks. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you don't want to miss our next episode. And with that, I'll say have a good night. Take care, everybody.